You think you
She's
can just
gone,
stand there and
isn't
obstruct
she?
my investigation,
The
Thompson?
voice of Officer
I'm not
Thompson
obstructing
cracked
anything,
as he stood
Detective.
over the scene of the crime, his face pale, hands trembling. Not yet, Detective Nia Moore replied, her voice calm but firm. Her eyes scanned the alley where the victim's body lay, a stark contrast to the surrounding chaos. But she will be if we don't figure this out. They've left something behind, something no one else saw. Thompson stepped closer, eyes wide. What do you mean? The victim was already bleeding out when we got here. You can't tell me there's anything more to this. Nia didn't answer immediately. She crouched down, inspecting the ground where the victim's blood had pooled, the glint of something catching her eye. Her heart raced as she found it, the smallest of marks on the ground near the body. A trail, a clue that everyone else had overlooked. They didn't just kill her, Nia muttered. They used her as a message. Thompson frowned. A message? From who? Why? I don't know yet, Nia said, standing up slowly. But this was planned. She didn't die by accident, and it wasn't just about her being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Hours later, the precinct was buzzing with activity. Officers gathered around Nia, looking at her with a mix of respect and curiosity. She had already started connecting dots no one else had seen. The victim, a black woman in her 20s, had been caught in a struggle outside a rundown apartment complex. But it was the state of the body that bothered Nia, the deliberate positioning of the victim, the subtle but clear signs of foul play. It wasn't just murder. It was personal. Nia stood in front of the whiteboard, marking out connections. She wasn't just trying to solve a crime. She was uncovering something much deeper. What are we missing? She asked aloud, tapping the marker against the board. This is about power. Someone wanted her to suffer. Are you saying this was a hate crime? Officer Daniels spoke up, his voice uneasy. I'm saying it's more than that, Nia said, turning to face him. This isn't just about her being in the wrong place. She's being used as a pawn. Someone is sending a message, and we're too busy chasing the wrong leads to see it. Thompson shook his head, disbelief written across his face. But 10 police officers couldn't stop this from happening. What do we have that they didn't? How are you going to find the truth when everyone's already given up on it? You're asking the wrong question, Nia said, her gaze sharp. The question is, who do we trust? And more importantly, who do we hold accountable for this? Later that night, Nia's phone buzzed, a message from an anonymous tipster. It read, "The victim wasn't just a bystander. She was part of something bigger. You've been looking in the wrong places." Nia's mind raced. Who could have sent this? And what did they mean by bigger? Without hesitation, she walked to her car and headed to the city's outskirts. The tip had led her to a small, rundown motel. Her instincts told her that this was where she'd find the answers. She stepped out of the car and surveyed the area. The parking lot was nearly empty, the lights dimmed. As she approached the motel's entrance, a figure stepped out of the shadows. "You're looking for something you're not ready to find," the figure said, their voice muffled by the hooded sweatshirt they wore. "I'm ready for whatever the truth is," Nia replied, her tone unwavering. The figure hesitated, then pulled a manila envelope from their jacket and handed it to her. "The police don't have all the answers," they whispered. "But you're on the right path. It's all in there." Nia opened the envelope, her heart pounding as she read the contents. Inside was a list of names, powerful names, names of people with connections far beyond what she'd imagined. "Everything is connected," Nia said to herself, realization dawning. This isn't just about one woman's death. This is about a system, a corrupt system that's been running for years. As Nia looked up, the figure was already gone. But the message was clear. She wasn't just fighting to solve a murder. She was fighting to expose something much bigger and more dangerous than she had ever imagined. The next day, Nia walked into the precinct with a new sense of urgency. The information from the tipster weighed heavily on her mind. A network of powerful individuals was tangled up in this. Her gut told her this wasn't just a murder. It was a message, and someone wanted to make sure it stayed buried. She pushed past the officers at the desk, ignoring their stares. Nia was known for her sharp instincts, but today she wasn't just looking for clues. She was looking for someone to help her unravel this web of corruption. As she stepped into the interrogation room, Officer Thompson was already there, sitting at the table, his hands clasped in front of him. The tension in his eyes was palpable. "Detective Moore," Thompson began, his voice low. "What are we doing here? We've got no evidence, and we're already running out of time. If you're planning to go after the brass again, you're not going to get anywhere." "Don't talk to me about time, Thompson," Nia snapped, her voice sharp. "You're talking like we've already given up. We haven't even scratched the surface yet." Thompson shifted in his seat, his expression guarded. "What do you expect from me, Nia? You've already alienated half the department. If you keep pushing like this, you're going to make more enemies than you can handle." Nia leaned forward, her gaze steady. "I'm not here to make friends, Thompson. I'm here to do what's right. I'm here to find the truth. And if that means going up against a few people who think they're untouchable, then so be it." Thompson opened his mouth, but before he could respond, Nia slammed the manila envelope onto the table. "You can keep pretending that we don't know who's behind this," she said, her voice firm. "But I've got names, and I'm not afraid to go after them." Thompson's eyes widened as he glanced at the papers spilling from the envelope. "Where did you get this?" "I don't have time to explain everything right now," Nia replied. "But I'm telling you, this goes deeper than any of us realized. These names are connected. High-ranking officers, politicians, people with money and power. The ones who thought they could keep this quiet." Thompson looked at the documents with a frown. "You're going after some dangerous people, Nia. Are you sure you want to go down this road?" "Do I have a choice?" Nia countered. "This isn't just about justice for one woman. This is about making sure no one else has to suffer in silence because of a system that's rigged against them." Just then, another officer entered the room, a young rookie named Officer Daniels. "Detective Moore, you've got a visitor." Nia glanced at him. "I'm not expecting anyone." "He says he has information about the case," Daniels said, his voice tight. "He insisted on speaking to you personally." Nia didn't hesitate. "Send him in." A few minutes later, a man walked into the room. He was tall, disheveled, and looked nervous, his eyes darting around the room as if he was expecting someone to jump out at him. He took a seat opposite Nia, his hands shaking. "You got something for me?" Nia asked, leaning forward, her tone all business. The man swallowed hard. I'm not supposed to be here," he stammered, "but I couldn't just stand by and do nothing. I know what happened. I know who was behind the killing. I know what you're up against." Nia raised an eyebrow. "Start talking." He glanced over at Thompson, his voice barely above a whisper. "I used to work with some of the people listed in that envelope. I was part of their crew. I never realized how deep the corruption went until it was too late. I was just a pawn." Nia didn't blink. "And now?" "I'm done being a pawn," he said, his voice shaky but gaining confidence. "I want out. I don't want to be a part of this anymore. I can't. I know too much. I saw the orders being made, the cover-ups. It's all connected." Nia's heart pounded. This was it. This was the break she had been waiting for. "What did you see?" He hesitated, then leaned in closer, lowering his voice. It wasn't just about the victim. She was the tip of the iceberg. They've been using people like her, targeting them, silencing them, and it goes all the way to the top. The same people you've been trying to expose. They've got the whole thing rigged. If you go after them, they'll destroy you first. Thompson shot Nia a look, his face drawn with concern. "You sure you want to listen to this guy?" "I'm listening to anyone who wants to tell me the truth," Nia said, turning back to the man. "Keep going." The man took a deep breath. "There's a meeting. Tonight. It's going to be the last one. If you want to take them down, you need to be there. They're not going to stop until they've buried everything." Nia stood, her heart racing. "Tell me where." "I'll show you," the man said, standing up as well. "But you've got to be careful. They're watching. They won't let anyone expose them without a fight." That evening, Nia stood outside the abandoned warehouse in a dark alley, the rain falling lightly on her coat. Thompson was with her, along with a few officers who had been willing to trust her. They were about to infiltrate a meeting that could uncover the truth about the corruption that had poisoned the system from the inside out. As they approached, Nia turned to Thompson. "You ready for this?" He nodded, his face serious. "I don't think any of us are. But we're in it now." Nia's jaw tightened, her eyes hard. "Then let's finish it. Once and for all." The night had fallen, but Nia's mind was far from quiet. The man who had spoken to her earlier, revealing the depth of the corruption surrounding the case, had shaken her to the core. She had always believed that justice could be served, that she could expose the truth with enough work and determination. But now, after hearing his words, she realized how deep the rot went, and how dangerous the people at the top truly were. As Nia entered the precinct the following morning, the energy in the room had shifted. Officers whispered behind her back, their murmurs full of suspicion, their eyes filled with doubt. Thompson's eyes were the only ones that seemed to hold any respect for her, but even he looked concerned. "Detective," Thompson said, his voice tight with frustration. "I need to talk to you." Nia turned, her expression unreadable. "About what?" "You're not just going after a few bad apples here," Thompson continued, his voice lowering. "You're going after the entire system. You've seen the files, you've heard the rumors. These people are dangerous." "I've heard enough to know what's going on," Nia said, her tone calm but unwavering. "And what I'm seeing is bigger than anything we've ever dealt with. This isn't just a murder investigation. This is about systemic corruption. It's about using people as pawns in a game they can't win." Thompson crossed his arms, his face clouded with concern. "And if they come after you? After us? What's the plan then?" Nia's gaze hardened. "Then we fight back, and we make sure the truth is heard." Hours later, Nia sat alone in her office, the manila envelope in front of her. Inside were names, connections, and dates, all of them leading to the same people she suspected were pulling the strings. There was one name that stood out among the others: Marcus Finch. the former officer turned private security contractor with ties to several high-profile figures in the city, was at the center of it all. Nia didn't hesitate. She grabbed her phone and made the call. "Marcus Finch," she said when he picked up. "I need to see you." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "I'm not sure this is a good idea, Detective." "I don't care what's good or not good, Finch," Nia shot back. "You're the key to this whole thing, and you're going to help me expose it." "Meet me at the docks," Finch replied after a beat, his voice low. "I'll tell you what I know. But this isn't something you can just walk away from, Moore." "I'm not walking away," Nia said. "Not now. Not ever." The docks were deserted when Nia arrived, the fog rolling in from the water, shrouding the area in an eerie silence. Her footsteps echoed as she approached the edge, her eyes scanning the shadows for any sign of Finch. A figure stepped out from the shadows, a tall, broad-shouldered man, his face partially obscured by a hood. "You came," Finch said, his voice rough, as if he'd been expecting this confrontation for a while. "I don't have time for games, Finch," Nia said, her voice firm. "I need the truth. Now." He gave her a grim smile. "I've known you were getting close to the truth for days. But I didn't think you'd be this bold. You've pissed off a lot of powerful people, Detective." "I'm not scared of them," Nia replied. "I'm scared of the people they're hurting. The ones they think they can just toss aside, the people who get overlooked, the ones who never get the chance to fight back." Finch's eyes narrowed, his jaw tight. "You're treading dangerous water. You don't know who's involved. This isn't just a few bad cops. This goes deeper. You've been after the wrong people." "I've been after the truth," Nia countered, "and I'm getting closer to it. So tell me, Marcus, who's pulling the strings?" Finch took a step back, rubbing his temples as if the truth was weighing on him. "You're going to get yourself killed, you know that?" "Not if you tell me what I need to know." For a long moment, Finch didn't speak. He looked out over the water, his hands shaking. Finally, he turned back to Nia. "All right, you want the truth? It's not just the cops. It's the city council, the people who've been covering this up for years. It's all tied to the mayor's office, and they've got their fingers in everything: real estate, security contracts, illegal operations. They've been using the department to silence people they don't want to speak out. And that woman you're investigating, she's just the beginning." Nia's heart raced as the pieces clicked into place. "And you're involved in this?" "I was," Finch said, his voice quiet. "I didn't realize how deep it went until I got in too far. But I can't stay silent anymore. You're right about one thing, Moore. You're not just fighting a few bad cops. You're fighting a whole system that doesn't want anyone to know how corrupt it is." Nia stepped closer, her voice low and urgent. "Then help me take them down." He hesitated, then nodded. "I'll give you everything. But you have to promise me you won't stop, no matter what." "I'm not stopping," Nia said. "Not now. Not ever." Back at the precinct, Nia prepared to take action. The pieces were falling into place, and it was time to make her move. The fight wasn't just about exposing a few corrupt officers anymore. It was about breaking a system that had been built on lies and deceit, a system that had been allowed to thrive for too long. As Nia gathered her team, Thompson walked in, his face grim. "You ready for this?" "I've been ready," Nia replied, her gaze unwavering. "It's time to take them down." The sting of betrayal was never easy, especially when it came from people you'd once trusted. Nia Moore stood outside the mayor's office, her fists clenched in silent determination. She had uncovered the lies, and now it was time to confront those who thought they were untouchable. Inside, the mayor sat behind a sleek, polished desk. His smug expression remained unchanged as Nia walked in, flanked by Thompson and the other officers who had pledged to stand by her side. "You know why I'm here," Nia said, her voice steady. "This isn't just about your people in the department. This is bigger than that." The mayor leaned back in his chair, his hands steepled. "General Moore, always so dramatic. You've been playing a dangerous game, haven't you? And now I'm forced to deal with the consequences of your actions." Nia didn't flinch. "I'm not here for your threats. I'm here for the truth." "I have nothing to hide," the mayor said, his tone condescending. "The city's been running just fine under my leadership. You've been ruffling feathers for months, and frankly, I don't know how much more I can tolerate." "You think this is about me?" Nia shot back. "This is about everything you've been covering up. The police corruption, the businesses, the lives you've ruined, including the victim we've been investigating. This is about power and how far you've gone to keep it." The mayor's eyes narrowed. "You have no idea who you're dealing with, Moore. You think you're some sort of hero, but you're a pawn in a much bigger game. You've already crossed lines that you can't come back from, and now you're putting everyone else at risk." "I'm not afraid of your threats," Nia said, her eyes piercing through him. "I'm afraid of what'll happen if I don't do anything. People are dying because of this system you've helped build, and I won't let it continue." The mayor's smugness faltered for a split second before he composed himself. "You've seen too much. And you don't understand what's at stake. You're playing with fire, and you'll get burned." "Not if we expose you first," Nia countered. "Your empire is built on lies, and it's crumbling. The truth is coming out whether you like it or not." The mayor's smile returned, but it was colder now. "You think you're the one who will bring me down? You're a fool." "I don't need to bring you down," Nia said, leaning forward. "You're doing it to yourself. All I have to do is keep pushing. The walls are closing in, and you're too blind to see it." The tension in the room thickened as the mayor stood up, his expression now one of barely concealed rage. "You've been warned, Detective Moore. There's no going back. Once you cross this line, you're on your own." "Good," Nia said, her voice unwavering, "because I've never been more certain of anything in my life." Later that evening, as Nia sat in her office reviewing the case files, she received an unexpected visit from Officer Daniels. He entered cautiously, his expression one of uncertainty. "Detective Moore, we need to talk," he said, his voice shaky. "I've been thinking about everything, and I don't know if I can keep doing this. I don't know if I can keep supporting this investigation." Nia raised an eyebrow, taken aback. "What are you talking about, Daniels?" "I'm saying I'm afraid," Daniels admitted, his voice barely a whisper. "You're right about everything, the corruption, the lies. But I don't know if we can win this fight. The mayor has too many people on his side. The city's too far gone." Nia stood up, walking over to the window as she looked out over the city. The weight of Daniel's words hung in the air, but she wouldn't let them shake her. "If we don't fight, Daniels, then we're just letting them win. This isn't just about one person, one case. It's about everyone who's been silenced, everyone who's been oppressed." Daniels shifted uncomfortably. "But what about the backlash? What about what happens next? You've already made enemies with people who can destroy us. I'm not afraid of what happens next, Nia said, turning back to face him. I'm not afraid of them. But I am afraid of doing nothing. Afraid of watching this city fall apart because we were too scared to speak up. Daniels met her gaze, his expression conflicted. So you're really going to keep pushing? Even if it means everything we've worked for, our careers, our lives, are on the line. I'm going to keep pushing, Nia said with a steely resolve. Because if we don't, then we're just part of the problem. We're just as guilty as the ones who've been pulling the strings. A long silence followed, and for a moment Nia thought Daniels might walk out. But instead, he nodded slowly, as if coming to terms with the weight of her words. All right, Detective, Daniels said quietly. I'm with you. Good, Nia replied. We're not backing down. We'll expose them. We'll take this fight all the way. The sun was setting as Nia stood in the shadow of the courthouse, her mind racing. She knew the moment had come, the tipping point where the truth would either tear everything down or build something new. The public had been waiting for this, and Nia was ready to give them the justice they'd been promised. Inside the courtroom, Amanda stood across from her, a smug smile plastered on her face. Her lawyer, Roland, was sitting beside her, his fingers tapping nervously on the desk. But it was the look in Amanda's eyes that spoke volumes. It was fear masked by arrogance. Nia stepped inside, her heels clicking against the marble floors. The atmosphere was electric with tension as she took her place at the prosecutor's table. Behind her, Thompson, Daniels, and a few other officers stood silently, their faces determined but weary. You think you've won, don't you? Amanda sneered, her voice dripping with contempt. You've got nothing on me. Nothing. You're just another pawn in a game you don't even understand. Nia didn't flinch. This isn't a game, Amanda. This is real life, and you're about to lose everything. The judge entered, and the room fell into a hush. Nia's heart pounded as she stood tall, ready to take on everything that had been stacked against her. She had the truth on her side, but truth didn't always guarantee victory. It was her job to make sure it did. Your Honor, Roland began, standing up with his usual smug demeanor. We've heard enough. There is no case here. The accusations are based on assumptions and weak evidence. There's no concrete proof that Amanda Harris is responsible for any wrongdoing. Your Honor, Nia interjected, her voice calm but firm. The truth is clear. The evidence is irrefutable. We have the toxicology reports, the witness testimony, and the paper trail linking Amanda Harris to this crime. This isn't a matter of assumption, it's a matter of justice. Roland's face reddened as he sputtered. This is a witch hunt. You can't just come in here and... Enough! The judge's gavel slammed down, silencing the room. He turned to Nia. Proceed, Detective Moore. Nia stood, her hands steady, as she began her opening statement. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the case before you is not just about the tragic death of one woman. It's about the systemic abuse of power, the manipulation, the poisoning, the cover-ups. This is about holding people accountable for the lives they've ruined, the families they've broken, and the system they've corrupted. The jury members exchanged glances, some nodding in agreement, others skeptical. But Nia was relentless. The next hour was filled with testimony, evidence, and the slow burn of the courtroom drama. Every detail Nia had uncovered, every conversation, every document, every clue, was laid out before the jury. But it was the moment when Linda, the housekeeper, took the stand that everything shifted. Linda stepped into the witness box, her calm demeanor belying the courage it had taken to get here. She looked directly at Amanda, her eyes filled with both anger and determination. "Tell us what you witnessed, Linda," Nia prompted, her voice steady. Linda took a deep breath before speaking. "I saw it all. I watched as Amanda Harris controlled Richard's every move. It wasn't just the tea. It was the way she manipulated him, used him, and made him believe he needed her. I watched as she made him dependent on her, and I watched as it slowly destroyed him." Amanda's face twisted with rage. "You're lying," she hissed. "You don't know anything about me. You don't know anything about my family." "I know enough," Linda replied calmly. "I saw you poison him, just like you poisoned everyone else who stood in your way. You thought you could get away with it, but you didn't count on people like Nia Moore who would expose the truth." Nia felt a surge of pride as she watched Linda stand tall, facing the woman who had caused so much harm. This was the moment when everything changed. Later, after hours of intense back-and-forth arguments and closing statements, the jury began deliberating. The weight of their decision hung in the air, thick with tension. Nia could feel it in her bones. This was the turning point. As the jury returned to the room, the courtroom grew deathly silent. The judge called for the verdict. "We, the jury, find the defendant, Amanda Harris, guilty of first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit fraud, and multiple counts of manipulation and abuse of power." The room erupted in shock, but Nia stood motionless, her gaze never leaving Amanda. She had done it. She had brought the truth to light, and the system would no longer protect the guilty. As Amanda was escorted out in handcuffs, her eyes met Nia's for the last time. The defiance was gone, replaced by the cold reality of defeat. "I'll be back," Amanda spat, her voice dripping with venom. "You haven't won yet." Nia's lips curled into a small, confident smile. "No, Amanda. This is just the beginning." Later, as Nia stepped out of the courthouse, the cool air hitting her face, Thompson walked up beside her. "You did it," Thompson said, a mix of admiration and relief in his voice. "You really did it." Nia looked up at the sky, the weight of the past few weeks finally lifting from her shoulders. It's not over yet, but it feels good to see the truth win for once. Thompson chuckled. "Yeah, well, enjoy this victory. You earned it." Nia nodded, a quiet smile tugging at her lips. "And I won't stop. Not until the entire system is fixed." The news had spread like wildfire. Amanda Harris, the wife of billionaire Richard Harris, had been found guilty of first-degree murder and conspiracy. Her arrest and subsequent conviction were only the beginning. Now the city was on edge, wondering how deep the corruption went and how many more were involved. But for Nia Moore, the fight was far from over. The victory in court was important, yes, but it wasn't the real battle. The real battle was the system that had allowed people like Amanda to rise to power in the first place. "Detective Moore," the chief said, entering Nia's office the morning after the trial, his tone serious. "We need to talk." Nia looked up from her desk, her hands folded. She had been waiting for this conversation. "About what?" "The fallout," the chief said, shutting the door behind him. "You know how much heat we're getting from the media, the mayor's office, even the governor's office. You've exposed something bigger than just a corrupt wife. There are powerful people who want this whole thing to go away." "I'm not backing down," Nia said firmly, her voice cold. If they think this is over, they're wrong. This isn't just about Amanda Harris. This is about everything, about the system that allows people like her to get away with it. The chief ran a hand through his hair, his frustration evident. Nia, I get it. But you have to understand that the people you're going up against are dangerous. This city, this department, they're not going to just let you dismantle everything. If you keep pushing like this, it won't end well for you. I'm not scared of them, Nia replied, her eyes locking with his. They're the ones who should be scared. We've already seen what happens when people like them get away with it. How many more will suffer because of their greed, their lies, their corruption?
The chief sighed, his expression softening. I don't want you to lose everything over this, Nia. You're good at your job, but you can't fight an entire system on your own. I'm not fighting alone, Nia said, standing up and meeting his gaze. I have the truth on my side. And as long as that truth keeps coming out, I'll keep pushing. I won't stop. The chief paused, then nodded slowly. All right, but don't say I didn't warn you. That evening, Nia sat in her apartment, going through the case files once more. The convictions had been a victory, but the sense of unease never left her. She knew that Amanda Harris was just the tip of the iceberg, and that a much bigger problem loomed on the horizon. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Linda. I got something. You need to see it. Nia's pulse quickened. It had been days since they last spoke, and the fact that Linda had something new meant they were getting closer to uncovering the full extent of the conspiracy. They met in a quiet cafe late that night. Linda slid a folder across the table, her eyes darting nervously around the room. What's this? Nia asked, opening the folder. Everything I could find. More names. More connections, Linda whispered. It's not just about the cops. It's the real estate moguls. The city officials. Even the police unions. They're all involved in the same thing. They've been using their influence to cover up crimes, manipulate the system, and keep people like Richard Harris in line. Nia's eyes widened as she flipped through the documents. There were names she recognized and many she didn't. But each one led to a web of corruption so tangled it was hard to keep track. This goes all the way to the top, Nia murmured. As the pieces began to fall into place, exactly, Linda said, leaning in. And they're going to do whatever it takes to protect themselves. Including coming after you. I'm not afraid, Nia said, her jaw tight. This isn't just about me. This is about making sure no one else gets hurt. No one else gets silenced. Linda nodded. But we can't do this alone. We need allies, inside the department, inside the city. We need people who aren't afraid to stand with us. I have people who trust me, Nia replied. And I'll find more. The next day, Nia called in reinforcements. She needed to build a coalition, not just of officers, but of civilians and activists who had been fighting against this corruption long before she had even uncovered the truth. It was time to take the fight beyond the walls of the precinct and into the streets, into the courts, and into the media. At the same time, the pressure was mounting. The mayor's office was threatening to revoke her badge. The city council was holding emergency meetings. And Amanda's supporters, powerful people from all walks of life, were working overtime to bury the story and protect their own interests, but Nia couldn't back down now. She had come too far. The truth was out, and it was up to her to make sure it stayed that way. The phone call came in the middle of the night. Nia, Thompson's voice crackled through the speaker. They're making their move. They're not waiting anymore. What do you mean? Nia asked, her voice sharp. They're coming after you. They're trying to discredit you, and they're using everything they can, media, connections, money. They're going to make you the scapegoat. I've been the scapegoat for too long, Nia replied, standing up and grabbing her jacket. It's time they knew what it felt like. The following days were a blur for Nia. Her world, once predictable, had shifted entirely. What had started as an investigation into a single murder had turned into a massive expose, pulling in some of the most powerful figures in the city. As she sat in her office, the weight of it all pressed on her. But the battle wasn't over yet. In fact, it was just getting started. Her phone buzzed. It was Thompson. Meet me in 10 minutes. We need to talk. Nia stood up, her mind racing. The stakes had never been higher. She had exposed the truth about the system, but the powerful players weren't going to let her win without a fight. And she knew they were already working behind the scenes to discredit her. She entered the precinct, her footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. Thompson was waiting in the break room, his face tense. He didn't need to say anything, she could see it in his eyes. The pressure was mounting. You've made it worse, Thompson said, his voice barely above a whisper. The mayor's office is furious. They're pulling strings to take you down, Nia. They're using everything they've got, connections, money, even threats. This isn't just a battle for justice anymore. This is a war. I'm not backing down, Nia replied, her voice cold and determined. This isn't just about me. It's about everyone they've silenced. Everyone they've hurt. I'm not going to let them bury this. Thompson sighed, his eyes full of concern. You don't realize how far they're willing to go, do you? They've already started digging up dirt on you, your past, your family. Anything they can use to destroy you. I know what they're capable of, Nia said, standing up straighter. But they've underestimated me. I didn't fight this hard just to give up now. The truth is out. And the world is watching. Just then, Officer Daniels entered, his face pale. He closed the door behind him and looked at Nia. Detective, there's something you need to see. Nia's heart raced. What is it? Daniels handed her a folder, and Nia's eyes scanned the contents. Inside were photos, pictures of her family, her past cases, and disturbing information about her personal life. They were trying to dig up anything they could to ruin her credibility. Who's behind this? Nia asked, her voice hard. Daniel swallowed. The mayor's office, some of the top city officials. They've got people on the inside. They know everything about you, Nia. Everything. She clenched her fists. They think they can break me. But they don't understand. I've been fighting my whole life. I didn't make it this far to be taken down by them. Thompson stepped forward, his voice urgent. Nia, listen. We're with you. But this is getting bigger than we ever thought. They're trying to ruin everything you've worked for. And they'll use anything, anyone, to stop you. Nia's gaze hardened. She wasn't going to let them win. Not after everything she'd uncovered. Not after everything she'd fought for. I didn't get into this to lose, Nia said, her voice low but fierce. I didn't come this far just to let them silence me. They've spent their whole lives protecting each other, lying, cheating, and hiding behind their power. But I'm not like them. I'm not going anywhere. And neither are you. Daniels and Thompson exchanged looks, but Nia didn't wait for their approval. She was already thinking ahead, plotting her next move. This wasn't just about Amanda anymore. This was about exposing the entire network of corruption, people who thought they could get away with anything because of their wealth, their connections, their power. The following evening, Nia found herself at the same abandoned warehouse where she had met with Finch. The night was dark, the air heavy with tension. She had a meeting with a new ally, someone on the inside who could help her bring down the entire network. She wasn't sure who to trust anymore, but this person had information that could change everything. As she approached the location, she saw the figure standing in the shadows. The hood was pulled low, but Nia could see the faint outline of a man. You're late, the figure said, his voice familiar. But I guess it's to be expected. Nia stepped forward, her heart pounding. You've got something for me. The figure stepped into the dim light, revealing none other than Marcus Finch, the same man who had warned her days ago about the dangers of digging too deep. But this time, his expression was different. There was no fear in his eyes. Only resolve. You've made a lot of enemies, Moore, Finch said, his voice low. But you're not alone anymore. What's going on? Nia asked, her mind racing. You said you had information. Finch handed her a thick envelope, the contents sealed tightly. I've got what you need. Everything. The people behind the scenes, the ones who've been pulling the strings. The ones you need to take down. Nia opened the envelope, her eyes scanning the documents inside. This was the breakthrough she needed. The names, the dates, the connections, it was all here. The people who thought they were untouchable were about to be exposed. Thank you, Marcus, Nia said, her voice steady. You don't know what this means. I do, he replied, his gaze sharp. Just remember, when you expose them, you better be ready for the fallout. They won't go down quietly. I'm ready, Nia said, her expression hardening. They've been getting away with this for too long. It's time they faced the consequences. The city was awake, its streets filled with the noise of daily life, but Nia's mind was a storm of thoughts. She stood outside the courthouse, the final chapter of her journey looming before her. The trial had been intense, the tension unbearable. But now it was time for the truth to come to light. The fight had been long, exposing the corruption, the systemic abuse, the lives destroyed by greed, but today, it would all come to a head. She had done everything she could to unearth the truth, and now it was up to the people to decide whether justice would be served. Inside, the jury had already deliberated. Nia had already said her piece. The case was now in their hands. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation as the doors opened, the jury filing in, their faces unreadable. Nia stood, watching them closely, knowing that every one of their decisions would change the future of the city, and her own future as well. The judge cleared his throat, signaling the beginning of the final stage. Has the jury reached a verdict? The jury foreman nodded, standing up to face the judge. We have, Your Honor. The room went deathly silent as the foreman turned to face Amanda Harris. who sat at the defendant's table, her face a mask of arrogance. Though the slightest tremor in her hand betrayed the fear she was trying to conceal, the jury, find the defendant, Amanda Harris, guilty of all charges, first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit fraud, and abuse of power, the foreman declared. The words hit the room like a shockwave. And for a brief moment, time seemed to stop. Amanda's face went white, and she shot a venomous look at Nia, but Nia didn't flinch. She was calm, composed. This was her moment. Amanda's lawyer jumped to his feet, shouting, "Your Honor, this is outrageous. This verdict is based on false accusations and incomplete evidence. We request an immediate appeal." But the judge raised his hand to silence him. "The jury has made their decision, Mr. Harris. Your request is denied. The guilty verdict stands." Amanda was escorted out in handcuffs, her expression twisted with rage, but Nia didn't flinch. She watched as the woman who had caused so much pain was led away in defeat. But even as she stood victorious, she knew the fight wasn't truly over. "Detective Moore," a voice called out from the crowd. It was Linda, her face filled with quiet pride. "You did it." Nia turned, a small smile tugging at her lips. "We did it," she corrected, her eyes scanning the room. "This is bigger than me. This is about every person who's ever been ignored, oppressed, or silenced." Linda nodded. "But you're the one who stood up. You're the one who brought it all to light. No one else had the courage to do what you did." "Courage is nothing if you don't use it for something bigger," Nia replied. "I didn't do this for me. I did it because the truth needed to be heard." Later that evening, Nia stood at the edge of the city, watching as the lights flickered below. The battle for justice had been hard-fought, and she had paid a price. But in the end, she had done what she had set out to do. The system was cracked wide open, and now, everyone would see what lay beneath the surface. Her phone buzzed again, and she pulled it from her pocket. It was a message from Thompson. "You did it, Nia. The city's talking. It's time for real change." She smiled to herself. It wasn't just about the case anymore, it was about the future. The fight wasn't over, but she had made sure the world could no longer ignore the truth. And that, in the end, was all that mattered. Just as she was about to put her phone down, a new message came through. It was from Linda. The mayor's office called. "They want to meet. You've made an impact, Nia. Now let's take this to the next level." Nia's heart raced as she read the message. This wasn't just the end of a chapter. It was the beginning of something much bigger. As she walked through the streets that night, Nia felt a sense of peace she hadn't known before. The road ahead was still long, but the work she had done, the people she had helped, and the truth she had uncovered were worth every sacrifice. The fight for justice would never truly end. But at least now, it had a fighting chance. If you've been moved by Nia's relentless fight for justice, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful, true stories. Share this video to spread awareness and continue the fight for accountability and change. Join us in uncovering the truth, one story at a time. Subscribe now for more #Black Women Stories, #Emotional Drama, #Empowerment, and #Black Excellence. Stay tuned for the next chapter in the pursuit of justice, because we're just getting started. The judge cleared his throat, signaling the beginning of the final stage. Has the jury reached a verdict?